Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Welcome to this press conference with Ahmad Hindawi of Jordan. Mr. Hindawi will have a brief opening statement and then he will take your questions. Mr. Hindawi, you have the floor, sir.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Please, in the beginning, allow me to express to you how profoundly honored and privileged I am to be here today. I just finished submitting my statement and delivering my statement to the General Counsel of the World Trade Organization in his session aiming at launching the process for selecting the new Director-General of the World Trade Organization. In my statement, I highlighted the vision and the plan for the organization as I see it for the future. I emphasized on two key areas, two key challenges that the organization has been facing in the past years and I believe will continue to face in the future. The first challenge relates to the Doha round and how to go about concluding the Doha development round. And the second major challenge is the internal restructuring and the internal reform of the organization. Within the second challenge, I proposed a comprehensive plan of 5 major categories and 20 areas of development that I'm suggesting to be focused at by the General Council in the future. Allow me just briefly to highlight the 5 main categories and then I will be more than happy to take any of your questions. The first category relates to the core functions of the World Trade Organization, the highly successful functions of the organization, namely the dispute settlement mechanism, the trade policy review, the accession process and the development component. All are very successful and have yielded very positive results, yet there are suggestions on how to continuously improve those functions in the future. The second is a very dear topic to my heart. It relates to restructuring the organization from within, what I call the institutionalizing of the institution. How to make sure that we have a well-defined corporate culture, an identity, a strategic plan for the organization, internal systems that will progress performance and excel performance of the organization. The third category relates to the governance, corporate governance in terms of the Director-General role, the role of the Secretariat, the relevant councils and committees of the body. The fourth relates to the interaction with the external stakeholders, whether business community or our partners, the other international organizations. And the fifth relates to the core concepts and the core approaches of the single undertaking and the consensus approach. I concluded by a statement by indicating that if I'm honored and privileged to be selected for the position of the Director-General of the institution, what will I bring with me? What will I add value to the organization if I'm honored by this selection? I indicated that this will be in 2 folds. One relating to my country, or more importantly Jordan, or more importantly the core values that Jordan represents, of neutrality, of fairness, of being able to act as an honest broker between different contending parties, about the sense of appreciation of the needs and aspirations of developing countries, yet at the same time full commitment to the cause of trade liberalization. And the second fold, the second component relating to my own merits, relating to my own experience. I have 25 years of experience in both the public sector and the private sector, 18 years in the public sector, fully devoted and dedicated to trade liberalization, and 8 years in the private sector, fully devoted to restructuring and reforming multinationals during the past years. I have strong negotiation skills that I utilized from Jordan's negotiations with all its bilateral, regional and multilateral trading agreements. Leadership, managerial skills. I indicated that I will bring a fresh outside look to the organization. I will bring innovative thinking, out of the box thinking that I think is highly needed and for the future of the organization. And I ended my statement by thanking Her Excellency, the Madam Chair, and the General Counsel for giving me the opportunity and all my colleagues to present our future vision and plan for the organization. So this is a sort of a summary of what I have said, and I'm open to any questions that you may have relating these issues or any other issue. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
The first question, please, for Jamil.
Yes, sir. I'm a journalist from Brazil. My question is about your vision regarding the accession of Iran and Syria, and also what would you do with Iraq also, that it looks like that is, has been stalled. But mainly, if you could talk about what you see for Iran and Syria here. Thank you.
I wouldn't comment, sir, on the accession of specific countries. I will talk about the accession process in general, and then you may infer about the two countries that you mentioned. It is of crucial importance, sir, to have well-defined, clear guidelines to govern the accession process. It is extremely risky to have a sort of a double standard that will jeopardize the whole credibility of the process. Yet at the same time, there are many in the world who perceive the accession process of the WTO as being too long, as being complex. So it is the trade-off of having one guideline, very clear and well-defined rule, taking into account the special needs of developing countries in terms of special and differential treatment and less than full reciprocity and the other embedded development guidelines within the WTO rules, but at the same time to enhance the effectiveness and to speed up the process of accession. I wouldn't treat any country more or less than this general guideline. If the guidelines and rules are met, then any country can join. And we have to remember, sir, that we are moving towards the universality of the organization. As I mentioned inside, I'm coming from the Arab world, and 11 countries out of 22 countries are not yet members of the World Trade Organization. More than half of the 35-plus countries who are not members in the WTO are coming from my region. So I think this is an added a positive message to the region of selecting a Director-General from the region. It is a sign of incorporation. It is a sign of acceptance. It is a sign of universality, that we are moving progressively towards achieving that goal of making the WTO a truly global organization. Thank you for the question.
Next question. Dan Prison, please.
Well, Mr. Hindawi, Daniel Pruzan with BNA in Washington.
Hi,
I want to ask you about your comments on the Doha round. You're a businessman, and it seems from what we hear and see in Geneva that business really doesn't care about Doha anymore. They've lost interest. They're not interested in concluding it. From a businessman's perspective, why do you think Doha is important, and what needs to be done specifically to get an agreement? Thank you.
The Doha round, sir, is an extremely important issue. It is a focal and core challenge that the organization needs to deal with great emphasis, and it is. As you correctly mentioned, sir, I'm coming from both a mixed public sector and private sector experience. I spent, as I said, 18 years in the public sector, devoted to negotiation of trading agreements. At the same time, I'm coming from the private sector, focusing on the restructuring and the reform of the organization. Nobody, sir, can afford a failed Doha round. The benefits of a concluded Doha is so huge, and the risks and the dangers of not concluding a Doha round are so detrimental. There are World Bank reports that estimate that concluding a Doha round with what has been agreed upon so far will increase international and global trade by 360 billion US dollars, including 160 billion US dollars from additional market access. So as a businessman, as somebody coming from the private sector, of course I'm interested in concluding a Doha, especially, sir, I'm coming from a service industry. And one of the issues on Doha is the service agreement. The detrimental impacts of not concluding a Doha, of a failed Doha, are so huge. Loss of credibility of the whole of the institution, loss of relevance, detrimentally impacting the core functions of the organization, which are currently very successful, like the dispute settlement function, like the trade policy review, and the other functions. The inability of the organization to proceed forward with the new very important issues, like investment, like climate issues, and many other important issues that the world is focusing at right now. So the opportunity is there. It is a huge opportunity for all, developed and developing business and governments alike, and the dangers, the detrimental impact of not concluding a Doha round are so huge. I argue, sir, that no one, whether developed or developing, can afford such detrimental impacts for not concluding a Doha round. Thank you, sir.
Peter, the next question, please.
Peter Kenny from Independent Newspaper Group in South Africa.
Thank you.
I think what we've seen is all the candidates seem to agree on the importance of fulfilling and succeeding with the Doha round. What do you think that you can offer that's precisely different or special that can facilitate the ending of this process? Thank you.
As you know, sir, in spite of the fact that the Doha round, in terms of negotiations, is technical in nature. The issues that are being negotiated are technical. Nevertheless, there are many who correctly perceive the core challenge of the Doha as being political, not having the political will, the political guidance, the political direction on the core issue of the level of contributions, the distribution of such contributions among the member countries. How much should each country contribute to the multilateral system, to the success, long-term success of the system? Should the round focus on market access issues? Should it focus on implementation issues? Or should it focus on development issues and rule-making and so on and so forth? So this is the core issue. I think that progress has been made. There are many who argue that 80% of the Doha round has been concluded, yet the remaining 20% is the tough part. I will intensify my relations. If I'm honored and privileged to be selected as a DG, I will intensify my connections with the delegates, with the member countries, to try to further understand their points of views, try to increase the alignment, try to narrow the gap in order to reach a conclusion. I will put it forward again and again for the ministers to give this political direction relating to the contributions and the distribution of such contributions. I will be more vocal in spreading the positive message of WTO and the positive impact on trade liberalization on the global economy as a whole and on all members, whether developed or developing. There are numerous other suggestions, Peter, that are being put forward on the table. For example, some are suggesting to conduct the ministerial meetings once every year instead of once every 2 years, to give that political direction. Some are arguing and calling for a leadership economic summit of the world leaders to be able to give that political directions. There are so many very conducive suggestions that are put on the table. The responsibility is on the member countries, because the WTO is a member-driven organization, to negotiate and discuss all of these possible strategies for moving the Doha forward and decide upon which approach they want to adopt. Thank you, Peter.
The next question is for Assis Moreira. Assis, you have the floor.
Yes. Assis Moreira, Valor Econômico, São Paulo.
Thank
you. Just one question. What do you think about the idea of introduction of exchange rate in the exchange rate?
Exchange rate.
Yes, in the rules of WTO to avoid the creation of a mechanism to avoid artificial devaluation of currency.
Sir, there are so many issues that are put forward under the umbrella of new issues. This is one of them. Investment issues are other. Climate changes and trade and environment is another. So all of these issues are very important issues to be discussed. And all of these issues do have direct impact on global trade. So it is an issue of global importance. So at the appropriate timing, all these new issues should be discussed by the World Trade Organization. The core issue is when, and how can we progress forward without completing what we have on our hands right now. So in order to enhance the possibility and the probability of success for the new rounds of talks relating to new issues on the table, we need to get a success story on the Doha round. Whether we conclude it all, solve this remaining 20%, or whether we agree on an early harvest or a mini Doha, as some is pushing, regardless of the approach, we need to get a success story. Then we can move to these very important issues that do have a very direct impact on global economy. Thank you, Aziz.
Fernando and then Jerry, please.
Fernando Buchola, Agencia F, Spain. Mr. Hindawi, can you be more specific about what you mean when you offer to bring to the organization a fresh look and innovative thinking? Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for that question. The fresh outside look, sir, is a look from someone who spent 18 years negotiating trade agreements, a public career servant, climbing up the ladder gradually from a head of section to a director of a department to an assistant secretary general of a ministry, director general, then a minister, involved heavily in WTO and its rule-making process and its internal mechanisms and internal particularities, yet at the same time a professional and expert in the area of reorganization and institutional performance excellence and restructuring organizations. Allow me to say, sir, that I'm truly humbled and honored to be competing among such a distinguished group of contenders and competitors, all having a strong, robust experience, all fully committed to the cause of trade liberalization. Yet regarding this issue, the issue of restructuring, the issue of reform, the issue of private sector experience, the energy, the enthusiasm, the freshness, being able to bring ideas, innovative ideas, out-of-the-box ideas, I believe that I can contribute and add value to the organization in this area. And one of the main pillars, sir, on my agenda, in my plan, was the institutional reform of the organization, especially with respect to the support function. No organization, dear colleagues, can exist, can operate in the 21st century without a clear culture, a clear identity. So I proposed having a clear and well-defined strategic plan with long-term objectives, short-term objectives, key performance indicators, performance management system, a human resources management and development system. We have a beautiful secretariat. We have people, young people who are highly competent, who are highly skilled, but they need further motivation. They need more incentives. So one of the issues that I mentioned inside, utilizing the ICT capabilities. Many countries, they do not have members in the WTO. We can utilize internet video conferencing capabilities to allow them to attend council meetings and committees. So all of this, a fresh look, a fresh outside look, from my experience, especially in the private sector, I believe will be of high value adding to the organization in the future. Thank you.
Jerry, it's over to you.
Yes. Jerry Hagstrom from the Hagstrom Report in the National Journal in Washington. I'd like some clarification on your views on the early harvest and what should happen in Bali in December. It seemed to me that you might be saying that you would accept whatever they agree to in December as the end of the Doha round, just get it off the table and then move forward. There have been some other candidates who have said, the early harvest is not enough. We absolutely must go for a big harvest. What is your actual view on this?
I have not indicated, sir, that I'm with early harvest or I'm against early harvest or whether it should be big or small. Let me go to the beginning, just to elaborate more on the answer. The single undertaking approach, sir, is a core approach, a fundamental approach of the World Trade Organization. The take it all or leave it all approach is a major improvement of the previous GATT system, the a la carte system. The two key benefits of the single undertaking principle, one, it stimulates and it strengthens and it deepens the developing countries' integration within the global economy. And that was one of the key objectives of the single undertaking, to accelerate that process of integration of developing countries. The second major advantage, sir, of the single undertaking is that it allowed for linkages among the different paths of negotiations, whether we're talking about market access or implementation or development or rulemaking. At the end of the day, there will be a win-win for everybody. Everybody will get some or all of what that country has started with in terms of requirements. So this integration, these linkages are very important to the single undertaking approach. Now, there are others, sir, who would say that the single undertaking approach may, in some cases, complicate the process, with so many countries negotiating, with so many issues put on the table. So let's approve something. At the end of the day, approving something is better than approving nothing and staying in standstill for a long period of time. What I'm saying, sir, it is not up for the DG to say whether the single undertaking or the early harvest, whether it is mini or grand, is the appropriate approach. It is a member-driven organization. The members themselves should decide on what is the appropriate approach for the organization to take, taking into account the long-term benefit of the multilateral system as a whole. As a DG, what I would do, if I'm honored and privileged to be selected, I will provide the forum for discussions and negotiations. Me and the excellent and highly skilled secretariat will provide the support, the analysis, the data, the information, in order to enable the member countries to reach a well-informed decision on which approach to take, whether they should stick to the single undertaking and complete that 20% remaining tough 20% that need political direction, or whether we should go to an early harvest, and if so, the exact composition of early harvest among the different streams of market access implementation and the core and fundamental issue of development. All right, sir? Thank you.
We have time for just one more question. Jerry, help yourself.
You mentioned being involved in bilateral agreements, and I believe that there is a bilateral between the United States and Jordan.
True.
Were you involved in that, and did you learn any lessons from that you think are applicable to this experience?
I was part of negotiating team, sir, of all the bilateral and regional agreements and multilateral agreements, including the free trade agreement with the United States of America. It was a huge learning process for us, at least as a developing country, engaging in a bilateral agreement with a large developed ally. I personally learned a lot from that experience. The negotiations were not easy, but they were fair, I believe, and they allowed for the interests of both parties to be taken into account. In terms of opening, in terms of market access, which Jordan already believes in and committed to, and in terms of giving special and differential treatment for Jordan vis-à-vis the durations by which it should implement its commitments in that FTA. I can name many issues that I learned and benefited a lot. For example, technical regulations, the standards. At the time, a limited amount of Jordanian standards were harmonized with international standards, and as part of our obligations and commitments to that agreement, in addition to the other international agreements, including the multilateral with the WTO, Jordan within a few years harmonized all of its international standards with international standards, whether ISO standards or other standards. So it was a very informative and educational experience that I enjoyed and benefited a lot from. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Hindawi. Thank you all very much. Just to let you know, we'll be back here for our final press conference of the day at 6 o'clock with Herminio Blanco of Mexico. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you.